In the northern part of Africa lies the Sahara Desert, the largest desert in the world, stretching 5,000 kilometers from east to west. The Sahel, the theme of this video, is a strip of land on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert. The Sahel is a semi-arid region with an area of approximately 3 million square kilometers. It is about 8 times the size of Japan. This region is now the most dangerous place in the world, and it is said that the situation in this region will affect the future of humanity. Hello everyone, my name is Kanta. Do you know the region called Sahel? As I mentioned earlier, the Sahel is a strip of land that stretches along the southern edge of the Sahara Desert. In fact, this Sahel region is now feared to be in the most serious situation in the world. I will explain 3 reasons why the Sahel is in trouble. The first reason why the Sahel is a problem is that the world's poorest countries are concentrated in this area. The Sahel region includes countries such as Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad, for example. All of these countries have very high poverty rates. How poor are they compared to other countries? There is an index called the Human Development Index that measures the level of development of countries around the world. Briefly explained, the Human Development Index is a comprehensive measure of a country's level of development in 3 aspects: health, education, and income, based on a country's average life expectancy and the number of years its citizens have been in school. When measuring a country's level of development, the GDP, Gross Domestic Product indicator, is often used. However, GDP focuses only on the economic aspects of a country. Unlike GDP, the Human Development Index focuses on the 3 aspects of health, education, and income, allowing us to understand a country's level of development from multiple perspectives. What are the countries in the Sahel region mentioned earlier? Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad ranked in the Human Development Index. According to the latest Human Development Index data, Niger ranks 189th out of 191 countries in the world. Mali is 186th, Burkina Faso is 184th, and Chad is 190th. These countries lack adequate basic infrastructure such as healthcare and education. They also have very little domestic industry, resulting in high unemployment and very low incomes for the people. While the majority of the population is very poor, countries such as Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad are actually very rich in natural resources. For example, Niger, which ranks 189th on the Human Development Index, is a rich source of uranium, which is used in nuclear power generation and other nuclear fuels. Niger's production of uranium is the 4th largest in the world, after Kazakhstan, Canada, and Australia. Most of the uranium extracted in Niger has been developed by French nuclear companies. In addition, much of the nuclear fuel needed in Japan has also been imported from Niger. Mali and Burkina Faso are rich gold-producing countries, and Chad has abundant oil reserves. Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad. All of these countries derive a large portion of their national income from the export of natural resources. Despite the existence of such abundant natural resources, most of the people live in extreme poverty. Why are the people poor despite the abundance of natural resources? There are many reasons, but one of them is that it is difficult for industries other than the natural resource industry to grow. If a country's economy depends solely on exports of natural resources, there is no need to grow industries other than the resource industry, and therefore no domestic jobs are created. In fact, in the countries mentioned above, while some powerful people and foreign companies monopolize the profits from natural resources, there are almost no industries other than the resource industry, so the unemployment rate is very high among the population. In countries with high unemployment rates, young people do not see any hope for the future. What will happen to these young people? That is related to the second reason. The second reason why the Sahel is a problem is because of the rampant activities of terrorist organizations. The reason for the large increase in the number of conflicts in Africa in recent years is the frequency of terrorist attacks by Islamic extremist groups in the Sahel region. For example, the number of violent and terrorist incidents involving Islamic extremist organizations has increased significantly from 90 in 2016 to 465 in 2018, even when limited to the Sahel region alone. There are a variety of armed organizations in the Sahel, but a particularly influential one is a terrorist organization known as Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb conducts terrorism, kidnapping, drug trafficking, and other illegal activities that threaten the stability of the entire region. Most of you may have never heard of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb before, but it was actually frequently reported in Japan for a while. Do you remember it? In January 2013, a country called Algeria, located in the northern part of the African continent, and a natural gas plant located in a place called Inamenas in the central part of Algeria, were attacked by armed forces. At the time of the incident, more than 800 people were working at the gas plant, including more than 130 foreign employees from about 30 countries. The gas plant was attacked by armed forces on January 16, 2013. Although the militants were eventually eliminated by a raid by the Algerian military and the gas plant was brought under control, 40 people, including 10 Japanese, were killed as a result of the attack. Since 10 of the 40 victims were Japanese, the incident was widely reported in the Japanese news at the time. It was Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, which I mentioned earlier, that claimed responsibility for this terrorist attack. Then, 4 months after the terrorist attack, in which 10 Japanese were killed, the mastermind of the attack, a man named Mokhtar Belmokhtar, committed another terrorist attack. The terrorist organization led by Belmokhtar carried out suicide bombings in northern Niger, where uranium mining was being conducted by a French company, killing more than 20 people. Various armed groups were operating in the Sahel region, especially in countries like Mali, where foreign troops had been sent to restore security. France, a former colonial power in the region, also sent troops and had great influence. However, Islamic extremist groups were hostile to France's military intervention. The terrorist attack in which 10 Japanese were killed also occurred at the same time that France began its military intervention. In fact, the following statement was issued by Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb leaders in November 2012. The French military intervention is being undertaken to ensure the plunder of wealth from Muslims and the African population. It means that uranium and oil, mixed with the sweat of the oppressed and needy in Niger, will be leaked to the various French factories without a fair price. It also aims to acquire the gold and diamond wealth of Mali and its neighboring countries. Meanwhile, the Malian people are plundered by them for minimum wages and remain stuck in a quagmire of poverty and deprivation. Of course, acts of terrorism are not acceptable. However, Africa has been deprived of its resources since the time it was a European colony, and even after gaining independence from the colonies, it continues to be exploited by the world powers. Despite the abundance of natural resources, the wealth is monopolized by a few powerful people and foreign countries, leaving the majority of the people poor. The dissatisfaction with such inequality has become a cause for terrorist organizations to operate. We have seen fierce poverty in the first and rampant terrorism in the second, but the third reason is the major influence behind these. The third reason why the Sahel is a problem is because it is the most affected by climate change in the world. The Sahel region is one of the regions most affected by climate change. Prolonged droughts, reduced precipitation, and desertification are hitting the region and having a tremendous impact on people's lives. When drought occurs, the water needed for crops to grow becomes unavailable. The Sahel region has experienced recurring droughts over the past several decades, which have had a significant impact on agricultural production. Mali, for example, experienced a major drought in 2021 that left 1.9 million people severely food insecure. Desertification is another serious problem. Desertification has resulted in the loss of farmland and pastureland, which has had a major impact on people's lives. In Burkina Faso, for example, it is estimated that as much as 500,000 hectares, or about 2% of the country's land area, is turning to desert every year. Thus, the Sahel region is facing serious problems due to climate change and is considered a hotspot where the effects of climate change are most severe. When agriculture becomes impossible due to drought, reduced precipitation, and desertification, people are plunged into fierce poverty, and some young people, unable to endure the fierce poverty, are taken in by terrorist organizations. The reward for a young man to be taken in by these Islamic extremist groups and to carry out suicide bombings is believed to be about $1,000. To carry out a suicide bombing means to sacrifice one's own life. One may feel that $1,000 is too little to pay for a suicide bombing. However, the people who live in this region are very poor, living on an income of only a few dozen cents per day. Unemployment is high in the countries of the Sahel region, and many young people have no hope for the future. Nevertheless, some powerful people and foreign companies monopolize the profits of natural resources. Many young people are frustrated by such unfair reality. It may be said that Islamic extremist organizations have become the recipients of the frustrations held by such young people. Some young people carry out suicide bombings, thinking that they will lose their own lives but their families will survive with the $1,000. The news of terrorist attacks that we see on TV and in the newspapers only emphasize the horror of the attacks and do not reveal the structural reasons behind them. Some of us may even see terrorists as crazy people. However, there are many factors behind such terrorist attacks, such as the extreme poverty and inequality, dissatisfaction with the reality of being exploited by a few powerful people and foreign countries, and the situation in which their lives are threatened by climate change. I am open to any comment, so please let me know what you think. Although not explained in this video, the Sahel region also has a serious problem of child marriage due to extreme poverty. Being forced to marry while still a child is called child marriage, and is generally defined as marriage under the age of 18. Child marriage, one of the most problematic, is forced marriage without the person's consent. I explain child marriage in detail in another video, so if you are interested, please check out that video. Kanta's channel provides easy-to-understand explanations of world issues that are difficult to learn about through other media. It is important not just to be interested, but to stay interested. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, let's continue to learn together. Please subscribe to my channel as well. Thank you so much for watching to the end. See you again in the next video.